Hi, I'm Josh with Woodland Mills, and today this video we're going to go over our HM122 portable sawmill. What I'm leaning on here is the crate the sawmill comes in. The crate is 20 inches deep, 88 inches long, and on the pallet provided is 36 inches high. The shipping weight on this crate is 500 pounds. The actual product weight, so once the shipping crate's disposed of and it's unpacked, is 460 pounds. So the sawmill itself with the track is 460. On top of the crate, I have some common accessories. This accessory here is a track extension, and this will take the sawmill from its standard cut length of 10 feet up to just over 16 feet. And you can add as many track extensions as you need for the projects that you have. The other common accessory is a maintenance kit, or we call it a G kit. And in the maintenance kit, you're going to get a pair of bearings for the guide blocks. You're going to get the guide blocks themselves, the wear parts. You're going to get a belt set, so the drive belt and the runner belt all come in this kit. So if you want to pick up a kit so that you'll have any spares you might need in the future, then this kit would come in really handy when you're sawing. Leaning against the crate, I've got a blade pack, and for the 122 model, we sell blades in packs of 5. And the blade pack, as well as the track extension and the maintenance kit, can all be shipped on top of the crate. So if you order them when you order the sawmill, they'll just be stacked on top, they'll be banded together and shipped out at our flat shipping rate. We ship the sawmills out of a few different locations. Our Canadian customers are going to have them shipped out of our Whitby, Ontario location. Our US customers will have it shipped out of our Buffalo, New York location. And our European customers will have it shipped out of our Gothenburg, Sweden location. For international customers, we do have warehouses throughout the world. Just touch base, check in on the website, and you'll see where those warehouses are located, and we can get the product to you from there. The assembly time on the sawmill is between half a day and a full day. It just depends on where you're trying to set it up and how mechanical you are and the tools you have at your disposal. Common hand tools, ratchet set, wrenches, a level are what you're going to need to get the sawmill put together. And it is doable with one person, but we do recommend 2 people will make it go a lot smoother and a lot faster. So again, half a day to a full day for assembly. And once the sawmill is assembled, we have one set up right here. We can show exactly what it looks like, what's in the crate. So this is a typical sawmill setup, ready to cut 10-foot lumber or 10-foot logs. There's no track extension on this. This is just the base setup. You'll see we've got it set up on wooden blocks. The wooden blocks give us a hard surface so we can shim the track to get it level. And it's very important with any sawmill to have the tracks level, both front to back and side to side. So you're going to want to put a level from bunk to bunk, and you're also going to want to put a level in the other dimension, because the track needs to be level for the lumber coming off the track to be square. So it's really important to get the track level. And you can see here we've used 6x6 blocks, and we've shimmed and then used carriage bolts to secure it down to the wood. The wood's been dug in a little bit on the high side, and it's shimmed up a little bit on the low side. Every sawmill comes standard with log supports, both long and short. So this is our short log support, and this will go in. If you're installed close to the ground, like we are here, at some point this is going to hit the ground and bottom out. And then you won't be able to cut any lower than the highest point. So that's where the short log supports come in. If your sawmill's raised high enough in the air, you can use the long supports right down to your last cut. But for those who install it lower, we also provide these short supports. I'm going to talk a little bit about the track. The track is galvanized. It's a 2.5-inch L channel, and it's been machined to 2 1/4 in the vertical. The bunks themselves a rectangular tube, and this rectangular tube, which comes in at just at 2 1/4 by 4 3/4, gives you a nice bearing surface. So when you're turning the logs, placing the logs on here, you're not going to score the logs or gouge the logs. And when you're turning the logs, you have a nice bearing surface here so it doesn't score, again, the edge of the cant or the edge of the lumber. Again, this is the standard setup, so the 3 middle ones are going to be supporting the logs. And you'll see you have the ability to move your log supports for doing shorter logs, or the standard position would be spaced on the 2 furthest bunks like we have now. The HM122 comes with 2 log supports, 2 log clamps standard. So this is a screw style log support or log clamp, and I'll show you how those work once we get a log on here and we clamp it. But it does come with the 2 to help support the logs. We can go now and have a look at the head of the sawmill and some details of the sawmill itself. So as we come here, I'll open the blade guards and show you the... So we've got 3 draw latches. And then a locking screw in the middle. So these will open up. Behind here it'll show us the cast iron band wheels. 16-inch diameter. The weight of the cast iron band wheels, so the thickness and the gauge of the cast iron, you can see it's quite large and heavy. That helps smooth out the cut. So when you're cutting, the momentum of the band wheel, you put both of them together, you spin them at high speed, and that's going to help store energy, so when the cut gets tough or there's a knot or something the blade has to pull through, it can use the energy that's stored in the rotating band wheels and transfer that to smooth out the cut. So nice heavy band wheels. We have a polyurethane belt on the follower side or the runner side. This is our centrifugal clutch, and that runs on the engine. And it engages, so this is a gas and go, so you basically just throttle up the engine, the clutch engages the blade. On this side, we've got a BX style V-belt. Again, driving the same diameter, 16-inch diameter cast iron band wheel. In the front here, we have 2 SKF sealed bearings that are pushed in from the face, and that's matched on the other side. So double stack bearings pushed in from... It's actually pushed in from the rear and then installed from the front with a circlip on them. You can see the guide blocks, and you can also see our lube line. So this is where we bring the water in to drip on the blade. And this can be adjusted. This is our guide block assembly. So these are the hardened steel pucks, and they're adjustable, and you set them off the blade. So what you want them to do is catch the blade if it tries to deviate, but not rub on the blade while it's doing regular cutting. So this is all your adjustment with the guide block. On this side we have a catch. So this is basically a safety, and this is designed to interact with the log supports before your blade does. So if your log support's set too high and your blade's going to run into it as you're cutting, this will hit this first and tell you that it's time to lower your log supports. You can see on the discharge size, we've got a nice opening here to allow the sawdust to fly out, and you'll see that while we're cutting. But I'm going to close up the blade guards now, and I'll take you around to the blade tensioning side, which is the far side of the mill, and show you some of the features and how to use the mill itself. So the T-handle here is how we tension the blade. And the T-handle runs on a threaded shaft, and on that threaded shaft we've got a stack of spring washers. And these spring washers give us the tension, but also give a little bit of play. So it allows the, if there's sawdust on the band wheel or debris, it's going to allow the blade to not have to stretch, because the springs will take up the play, but still keep the tension in the blade. We've got a bearing here that takes the pressure off of those spring washers so they don't try and turn as we torque this. And because of that, we can set our blade tension to a torque spec of 25 foot-pounds, and it'll consistently give us the blade tension we need. So we've got a nut on here to use a torque wrench, and we can torque that. So you're not just doing it by feel, you can actually set it with a torque wrench and you know that you've set it to the correct amount. You can see our winch here, and this winch is how we raise and lower the saw head. So it raises and lowers quite quickly, which allows you to mill efficiently. It's self-locking. So as soon as we start turning it back, it allows us to undo, but without any weight. Up for the cut, and then as you work your way down, you can see we've got the indicator here and then our measuring scale on the back. Now this is a magnetic measuring scale. You can change them. You can make your own custom ones on magnet stock if you have specific cuts in mind. But you'll see how we change per crank up and down. And this is all run with stainless steel cable. It goes through our pulleys, which all have bearings in them, and it runs on the two connection points that are tunable. So you can adjust the saw head to true it and keep it tuned. On the back here, you can see our throttle position. So this is where the user is going to stand. The user can keep one hand here, push through the cut. It's easy when you're at the back of the log to reach up with the same hand, do all your adjustments. Because this is a magnet, if you need to zero your cut or set a reference, you can just slide the magnet up and down and it'll let you set the reference for your cut. This little box at the back here is housing our valve that turns the water flow on. So usually I say water because it's basically just water and a little bit of detergent and soap. You can read the concentration in the manual, but this gives you an off and an on position. So it's easy for the user during the cut to turn it on and turn it back off when the cut's finished. It's in a user position where it's handy. The engine we use on here is a Kohler Command Pro 7 horsepower. This Kohler Command Pro is a 3-year commercial warranty. It's a strong engine. It's got an air filter that can be set in winter mode or summer mode. And we've matched it to the diameter capability of this sawmill so that it can cut effectively and efficiently. And we've geared the centrifugal clutch to work with the log size that this mill is set up to handle. You can see here on the water tank, we also have a fine tuning valve. So what this does is this allows you to set your flow rate. And the flow rate can be tuned with the outer knob, and then there's a locking knob in the back. So you set it, you can lock it on a fine thread, and then when you turn on this one, you're basically just turning it on and off. You're not trying to control the speed of which the water comes through. You're just on or off, so it's a simple operation. As we come around a little further to this side, you're going to see the operator's manual. And in this operator's manual, we cover everything you need to know about the sawmill. So we provide a safety kit, which is glasses, earplugs, and leather gloves. And this is so that once you get it assembled and you're really excited to make your first cut, you can put on your safety gear first. We've got our installation manual, which is going to tell you all the setup. It's going to go over the assembly. It's going to go over the tuning. We have the engine manufacturer's manual in here as well, which is going to go over the maintenance intervals and the warranty information from Kohler. It's best to keep this on the machine because there is tips and tricks in there about tuning, tracking, how to keep the blade true and how to cut efficiently with the machine. So it's handy to have it there. So if you ever need to refer to it, and this is a waterproof case. With sawmills, you have to do some blade tracking and adjustment. So there's one point on the right-hand side here to do your tracking. It utilizes this large nut and bolt here. And we cover all that in the manual as well. So it's handy to have the manual, give it a good read. You're gonna need to know how to set this up and do the blade tracking like any bandsaw or sawmill. On the left-hand side, the tracking is done with this block here. And again, this is all covered in the manual which comes. So what I want to do now, I mean, other than we can cover this here before I start milling. These have wire sweeps on them, and these wire sweeps keep all the debris out of the saw. That keeps the debris out of the groove here so it doesn't bump along the track, and that's an important part. These have double pushed bearings into them, so that there's no play or wobble. And these are all laser cut to give us a precision fit from the front to the back and make sure everything's square and true. Now I want to take the tractor, we'll get a log. We're going to cut an oak log today. We'll get it loaded on the sawmill. We'll show you how the log clamps work. We'll show you how the sawmill works itself, and we'll cut some boards. The log loaded now. This is a 17-inch diameter red oak log. I'm going to show you how it fits on the mill. I'm going to show you and give you the dimensions and capabilities of the mill before we get started. So with the HM122, it's got a 22-inch log capacity, and that's the diameter of the log. So this one is a 17. We're looking at a 22-inch. You can see as I raise and lower this, how much higher my first cut's gonna be than this log, and that's because of the 22-inch capacity. So 22 inches is here. That's just means our first cut's gonna be a 2-inch scab off the top. Between the guides, I can show you, we have about 19 inches. So your widest slab is 19. Between the log support, the edge of the log support, and the left guide here, it runs about 16 inches. So when you take a 22-inch log and you square it up, you're going to end up with a 16-inch cant, or a 16-inch square. Out of that 16-inch square, you can cut boards right down to the 1-inch mark. The height in here is 6 1/4 inches. So your thickest cut is 6 1/4, and if you're down to a square, it's 6 1/4 by 16, using the log supports to square the log on the bunk. I'm going to get this log secured now, and we'll start making our cuts. So now we can get this log rolled against the log supports in the back. I'll get the log clamps, we'll get it clamped in place, and we'll start making our first passes on this oak log. So the log supports. Secure. So you want to double check your blade tension before you start to mill. 25 foot-pounds I got a torque wrench here. And now we're ready to mill. Get this out of my way. So to make our first pass, we're going to come around. You can eye it up, and what we're going to do is we're going to lower this blade to take off the first slab or scab off the top, give us a flat side. I want to start the engine. We're going to get our safety glasses, our hearing protection. We want to make sure our flow rate is set nice. So now we've made our first pass. And as you can see the grain in the red oak, we've got about a 9-inch wide flat surface there. I'll take one more pass on this side and then we'll rotate the log. So now we're making more like a 12-inch cut now. So this was cut at 4.4. I'm just going to set this aside and we'll edge this later. But now I want to rotate that log and we'll cut a pass off the back. giving it a clamp. Now that it's on the flat side, it's going to be less likely to move, less likely to wiggle around on us while we make our cut. As you can see, the 7 horsepower engine is more than capable of making these 12-inch wide cuts on this red oak. Once we get it squared up, we'll do a time pass so you can see the actual time it's taken to make the cut. Now that I've got the 2 flat sides, what I'm trying to do is get down to a 10-inch high board. So I'm just at 10 inches now. And what we'll do is a 10-inch wide timed cut so that we can compare it between the different models. But for now, I'm going to turn the board up against the long log supports. We'll start cutting, get a 3rd flat side, and then we'll get it squared up. So I've got a scrap of wood here. You can use this scrap of wood when clamping so we don't mark up the face of our wood. I'll clamp this one down low. So now again, we're going to bring it up and take another pass off, trying to take off the least amount of good lumber as possible. Water valve on. basically, with these passes, we're cutting the taper out of the log. So we've got the fat end of the log at this end, and as we're cutting down, we just don't want to make too aggressive a first cut, because there is usually a board in there if you can hit the first scab right on. So now we've got this face cleaned right up. You'll see I have a little bit of wane or live edge on this one, so we can clean this board up later. Now I'm going to do the final rotation. What we've got now is just 10 1/4 by about 12 inches. So I'm going to turn this, we'll pull a few boards off. We're going to end up with about a 10 by 10, and then we'll make passes to take the boards out of that. And because it's square on square now, I'll just do one clamp, because it's got a nice flat side to sit on the bunk, so it's less likely to move around. So as you can see, we took off a healthy amount, but we still have a bit of live edge on these. The next pass will take that off. So that was a full cut, 10¼ inches. By 7½ feet long. So that's a veneer pass. It's a little less than 1/8 of an inch thick. You can see it's consistent. So now I want to just zero this out. So you can see this cut. You can see the trueness of the cut. Again, 10¼ wide, 7½ feet long. We'll probably speed this part up. We're going to cut down through this, pulling off our 1-inch boards. We'll get this log all milled through, and then we'll summarize what we've done. So I just wanted to stop and take a sec to explain what we've run into here on this log. So as we're cutting down through the log, we're actually just starting to meet the heart of the log, or the center. And you can start to see the imperfections that come along with that. But the other thing you can see is the different grain structure in here. And this is basically showing us quarter sawn lumber. So as you get down to the two cuts, you know, one above, one below the heart of the log, you're going to start to see this really nice grain. And this is a really prized wood. Now, quarter sawing on this sawmill can be done. We could have cut the entire log quarter sawn. That's a whole nother video to show you how to do that. But I just thought I'd stop and talk about what we're seeing here and why this grain looks so interesting during the cut. I'm going to go ahead now. We'll finish this off. We'll stack up our lumber and we'll talk about the board feet we cut today and how long it took. So we've taken the time to edge up the last remaining boards, square them up so it's easier to stack them. It's easier to process them later if we're going to build furniture with this oak, or we can now run it just through a table saw to get the dimensions we need. I'm going to go ahead, we'll stack this up on a pallet and we'll calculate the board footage. I hope you enjoyed the video today. This has been Josh with Woodland Mills showing you the HM122.